portions. And to help us understand how that works, Professor Pierre Chardon is a professor of marketing and a director at the INSEAD Sorbonne University Behavioral Lab, and he joins us now from France. Professor, tell us then, your research found that people expect to enjoy bigger portions more, but actually, when it comes to eating, nudging people to eat a reasonable portion makes them more satisfied through multisensory imagery. How exactly does that work?
Well, the thing is, with food, people expect that pleasure increases with quantity. In reality, it's the quality that really matters. And so we all know that the first mouthful, the first bite is the most pleasurable. The second one is pleasurable a bit less, and the last one, not so much. The thing is, the overall pleasure that you get from eating a Christmas lunch, for example, is not the sum of the pleasure that you get from each bite, but the average. Which is why when you're eating a lot, that last bite, that really bland and not so pleasant bite, instead of adding a bit of pleasure, it actually subtracts from the average and it pulls the average down. And that's why actually reminding people that pleasure in food is about savoring, is about really appreciating different senses, helps people enjoy food more and helps them realize that they actually don't need to stuff themselves to have a good meal.
So, Professor, what I hear you say is that when a person imagines vividly the taste, the smells, the texture of food, when they choose the portion size, I mean, it's better for them or they enjoy it more if it's a smaller serving?
Exactly. So we ran a study in a restaurant where we had a menu which described the food. It was very simple food, but in a very rich, emotional way, talking about the different flavors, the aromas, the texture. And people, it was an all-you-can-eat buffet. People had the opportunity to stuff themselves. But when we reminded them that really pleasure comes from quality and appreciating in a gourmet kind of way all the different flavors of the food, people on average took 17% less food. They ate 17% less, yet at the end of the meal, they reported being much happier, and they were willing to actually pay more for less food eaten.
So that, I guess, comes back to, I guess it's a marketer's dream, right? Then if you're very good at marketing your product, you have a better chance of satisfying your customers.
And it's actually what I'm telling the food industry is that today they act as if they're in the energy business, you know, food as fuel, selling more calories to more people, and in the end everyone is unhappy because we eat too much and there's all sorts of issues, obesity, and it's bad for the environment. And actually we need to go back to something which, I mean, it's not something I discovered. About 2,300 years ago, Epicurus, the philosopher, actually said very simply that the wise person doesn't choose the largest amount of food, but the most pleasing. So we just need to go back to Epicurus and to enjoy food in an Epicurean way, in a gourmet way, not as a greedy way. And actually, it will make us happier. I'm not saying with a tiny amount of food, but with a more reasonable amount of food.
Well, Professor, Nouvelle Cuisine, that's something that, you know, that branch of cuisine has known for a very long time, the small portions, but good quality food. But it might also be quite expensive. Are we seeing the same trend right now?
So I didn't catch part of your question, but I think it's true that some restaurants have understood that people don't just take pleasure from quantity, but from the aesthetics and from the presentation, and that in fact if you serve smaller amounts, and I'm not saying again tiny amounts, I'm just saying let's go back to what used to be a regular amount. If you think about beverages, for example, for the first 80 years of its existence, the Coca-Cola company had one size, 19 centiliters. And today, that's not even enough for a kid's cup at a fast food restaurant. So our sizes have increased tremendously. We used to eat one slice of pizza. Now we eat the whole pizza, okay? If you look at pastries, etc., cookies, everything has become much bigger. And has this made us really happier with our food? Not really. I think if we start to realize that it's the quality and the imagining of the food and the pausing and savoring that makes us happier, we'll realize that we'll be better off with less food. And I agree, it's a win-win. It's actually a triple win. It's a win for business because they can charge more for less food. It's a win for health, and it's also a win for pleasure.
Right. I'm going to have to scrutinize the quality of that one slice of chocolate cake that I have in future.
You certainly will.
Because I always want a second one, you see.
It's also a win for cutting down on food waste as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor Pierre Chandon, for speaking to us. Professor Chandon, they're Professor of Marketing and Director at the INSEAD Sorbonne University and Behavioral Lab.